Welcome back to Yes, I'm Adopted, Don't Make It Weird with Brett and Davo, and today, let's talk adoption policies.
It should pan around now and be like a da-da-da-ba.
Adoption! This just in. Wait, I was adopted. So Davo and I were invited out to the Connect-A-Kid Citizenship Seminar out in LA in Koreatown, which by the way is an awesome place. Last week, we learned a lot when we were out there. And we're gonna kind of break down for the next 2 weeks in talking about on the podcast this upcoming Thursday as well a little bit. All the different things that we learned while we were out in LA. Stop falling. Just stand properly. Dark Stormtroopers are just always drunk. That's why they can't aim.
That's true.
We're going to jump right into this here real quick because there's really no easy way of just easing into this subject. So, Davo, what was one of the biggest shockers, I guess, that you learned when we were out in LA?
It was really interesting. It's interesting to think about, like the first and foremost thing I guess that I realized was thinking about myself as an immigrant, right?
Right.
As somebody that is immigrated into the United States and that was not born here, and like how easy it is for me to see myself as adopted, how easy it is to see myself as Korean, and how I've never thought about my status as an immigrant.
Right.
Right? Kind of ever, because it's always just been something that we've taken for granted.
Right.
And yet it's something that is not necessarily something to be taken for granted, because there are still several other adoptees internationally of our generation that are not technically citizens of the United States that are here. And that's baffling. That's
Right.
baffling to me that one, that it happens at all.
Yeah.
And two, that even in the proposed Adoptee Citizenship Act of 2001, that like there were loopholes in that, so that we still have to talk about this. Like, when somebody commented in one of the posts that we had that seems like an easy fix, right?
It does seem like an easy fix.
And like, because we're talking about adoptees who entered the country legally,
Right.
whose citizenship status was never finalized, right? And so we're technically here on like a green card or an immigration status or whatever, but didn't like had that expire, but were raised by American parents,
Right. In this culture.
right?
And usually it's like, like the stories have kind of been like they have no recollection of their previous culture.
Right.
Like either it was infant adoptee or, like very young adoptee. And for them to have this fear of having to go back to this culture that they were never a part of, like that's terrifying.
Right.
Like if somebody were to come up to me and be like, hey, we're sending you back to Korea, I would have no idea what to do. I don't speak Korean. I know the word shut up in Korean.
Right.
That's it.
I've heard you
and
say that.
nobody would like me.
Right. You're just the insane guy that tells everybody to shut up exclusively.
Yeah.
Like that's the only thing you know how
That's
to say.
all I know.
Yeah, I mean it's very interesting. So like for people that are wondering, like, who does this issue really affect, right? Like, so it affects all of us because it's happening to some of us. Like, that's something that we need to be aware of. The fact that we need to, like, physically know where your naturalization papers are.
Yes.
Like,
that was huge.
like,
I didn't think about that.
how difficult it is to get replacements, if at all.
Oh,
how
man.
long that is
It's
to
expensive.
take, right? And how basically, if we don't look like we're from here, it's in question. Like that's just the situation we live with, right? So know where your physical naturalization papers are. If you have kids that were under the age of 18 in the year 2001, I believe, they are citizens of the United States, but just know where your documents are.
Know where the paperwork is.
So for the, I don't know, a huge majority of children, essentially, or the younger generation, like, this doesn't really apply because you're automatically opted into citizenship if you were adopted before and you were under the age of 18 in the year 2001.
Yeah.
Now, there are still thousands of adoptees that are our age.
Right.
That are,
like thousands just in Korea.
Right. And then also all of the other, like a ton of other nationalities that this applies to, because sometimes it's something as innocuous as a clerical error.
Yeah.
Right?
Like there's misspelling of the name, there's the wrong date on it, your date of birth on your birth certificate doesn't match up with this, and so they pull everything into question. And then you come to realize that you have not been a citizen of the United States your whole life of living here. Like, we heard so many stories about that.
People that have served in the military
oh my gosh, that was crazy.
Right? That are not technically citizens, that have had security clearances and stuff. Like, it's crazy what's been allowed to happen.
Yeah.
And, again, I want to clarify that, like, kids today, the process now includes naturalization overseas before you enter the country.
Yes.
Right? So kids that are adopted today, like, you don't really have to worry about citizenship status. Just keep track of your paperwork.
Yes.
But this does affect, thousands of adoptees that are adults, that are tax-paying, law-abiding, family-having adults today that live with this idea or this constant threat that it could all be taken away because of just their current status with a green card.
Right.
And because certain paperwork was never filed in a timely fashion.
Right.
And that is unacceptable.
Yeah, one of the people that was there actually live is in that scenario. And they said that they can't get a license, they can't get Social Security cards. They lost their original one and they can't reapply for it because they can't prove anything. And they can't even become a U.S. citizen or apply to become a U.S. citizen because they don't have the identification papers.
Right.
Which, in order to get those identification papers, you need to be a U.S. citizen.
Right.
But you can't apply for them because you're not a U.S. So it's baffling.
Like, you can't get a driver's license unless you're a citizen.
Right.
But you can't literally take the oath.
Yeah.
Of citizenship.
Without your driver's license.
Without your driver's license. Which you can't get unless you've taken the oath of citizenship.
What in the world?
It's like, there's some crazy stuff that's going on out there. And yes, this is the minority of our American population.
Yeah.
But yes, it's also, this is an easy bipartisan fix that just requires a couple, really just push that through Congress and the House of State of Representatives.
Yeah, it is moving. Like, that is the nice thing. Like, it is in progress, and we're seeing other states, actually starting to open up closed records. After this conference, and I know it wasn't, they weren't trying to make us all afraid or anything like that, but I literally called my family and I was like, where is my paperwork? Mm-hmm. and my wife, she got everything out and looked for it and found my naturalization paperwork.
Right.
And only then I felt relief.
Right. Like, because again, it's stories, but the stories are what make this human.
Yeah.
And the idea that, it is possible that I could be pulled over for a routine traffic check and then detained as an illegal immigrant until I can prove otherwise.
Yeah.
Right? Is something that, it's not on the forefront of my mind. It's not something that I actively fear, but it is something that's there.
Right.
And unless that's your scenario, it's not something that you'd ever come across.
No.
Right? And, again, we try not to be extremely political, and I don't really think this is a hugely political idea, all things considered, because we're not talking about the legality of immigration. We're talking about people that have entered the country legally and were raised in this country by citizens of this country that just don't have all of their clerical paperwork done. And that should be something that should be a lot easier for them to obtain. So that's the takeaway. I am curious, what's that like in Australia? And what's that like in Great Britain? What's the policy there? I don't know. We have some viewers, and this
Throw it in the comments
This
below.
doesn't apply to you specifically, but I'd be curious to know
I am curious about that too.
What goes on in your countries.
If we end up going to those countries, are we going to be allowed back?
Right? They're going to let us... I have a U.S. passport, guys, so...
I got to get mine renewed.
You should probably do that.
Should do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially since we're going to go to Australia.
Maybe, I
don't know.
If you bring us there.
So next week, we are going to be talking about how you, the viewer, the parents, the adoptee, can get involved. One thing that we have stressed very, very much, we are not an adoption advocacy group. We are education, we're entertainment. We love being able to have these conversations with you. We love the community that we've been able to build. However, there are so many people out there that are so much smarter and better equipped in order to deal with the stuff than we are. Our job is to kind of get the word out there for people. We did get to meet a lot of really amazing people.
Yes.
Who are so intelligent. They know how to get meetings with senators and your Congress people and the proper way to go through these channels and how to pitch them correctly and all this other stuff. Like, they've been in the political game for a long time.
Right.
We got to meet somebody from Holt, which is pretty cool too, talking about how to get involved with that. And so there are a lot of people out there that are so well equipped for this, and we want to be able to give you those resources. If you as the parent are watching this and it's resonating with you, I don't want to put the fear in people, but if this was your kid dealing with this, what would you do as the parent? And it sucks because a lot of the parents that did not do the paperwork correctly, or something fell through the cracks, and most of the time it wasn't because they were negligent. They just don't know.
Right.
It was new. All these policies and stuff coming out, people didn't know. So a lot of the stuff fell through the crack. But if that happened to you as the parent nowadays, how far would you go in order to protect your child?
Right. And we're adults now, but your adoptee is never not your kid.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? we're always going to be members of our family, and that's important. So be aware. Just be aware of what's going on out there, and we're going to continue to give you resources, and then let you make your own decisions about it. But that's that's what's happening in the world. Also, we're incredibly thankful that we got to go.
Yeah.
Because we got to have a fancy dinner.
Yeah, we did. It was so good. All Korean food is ruined for me now because
That's
that
true.
was delicious.
It was delightful, and yeah. So we're going to continue to have this conversation over the podcast and the next episode, and also to talk a little bit about what it's like to be culturally Korean adopted. Because we didn't really understand the culture of that specific thing until we were inundated with it.
Being surrounded by a bunch of Koreans is terrifying.
It was very strange, but super cool. Because they all, act and sound like us.
And they all have the whitest names. What's with parents naming all their Korean kids the whitest names?
Or they've gone back to Korean names or never had them also. There doesn't seem to be a ton in between. So that's what we're going to be doing for the next couple of weeks. Again, we're incredibly thankful and humbled for the opportunities we've been given, and we thank you, the viewers, for allowing that stuff to happen, which has been very cool. So that being said, please join us on this Thursday morning.
This Thursday morning.
We're going to have a podcast, 8 o'clock. That's going to go up for your daily commute, as well as our weekend update. And then next week, we're going to continue this conversation about these various topics that we've been discussing.
So please make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And we will see you guys next week.